What's the boldest move you pulled at school? I spent 3 years invisible at my high school. Not the shy kid who sits alone, but the one nobody remembers exists. Teachers called me by the wrong name. Kids borrowed my notes, then forgot who gave them. Even the lunch lady skipped my tray sometimes like I wasn't standing there. So when I overheard two popular girls planning the senior prank, something inside me snapped. Not because I wanted to join, but because their idea was weak. They wanted to fill the principal's office with balloons. That's it. Balloons. Like we were still in middle school. I knew I could do better. So I started planning something that would make everyone finally see me. First, I got Jake involved. He worked at his uncle's print shop and owed me for doing his chemistry homework all semester. I told him I needed 500 copies of something, but couldn't say what yet. He agreed without questions because that's how desperate he was to pass. Then I talked to Emma from theater. She had keys to the costume room because she managed props. I told her I needed to borrow something for one night. She handed me the keys and said, just don't get caught. The hardest part was getting into the school database. But my computer science teacher, Mr. Lopez, had been using the same password for 3 years. Football 2019. I knew because he typed it in front of us every morning when he logged in. 2 weeks before graduation, everything was ready. I stayed after school pretending to work on yearbook layouts. When the building emptied out, I went to work. First, I logged into the announcement system and recorded a new morning message. Then I printed all 500 copies. Every single one was a different embarrassing photo from the principal's Facebook. Him doing karaoke, him wearing a banana costume at Halloween, him crying at his daughter's wedding. But that wasn't the best part. Using the theater supplies, I made a perfect replica of our school mascot costume, except this one had the principal's face printed on the head. I hung it from the main hallway ceiling with fishing wire so it would drop during morning announcements. The next morning, I sat in homeroom trying not to smile. At exactly 8:15, my recorded message started playing over the speakers, but it wasn't my voice. It was the principal's. I had used an AI voice generator trained on his morning announcements. Good morning, Wildcats. This is Principal Morrison reminding you that I peaked in 1987 and haven't had an original thought since. Please enjoy these photos of me trying to stay relevant. Then the slideshow started on every smartboard in the building. 500 different photos cycling through. The mascot dropped from the ceiling right as students flooded the hallway. Everyone was filming, screaming, laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. But here's where I messed up. I forgot about one thing. Metadata. Every printed photo had tiny text at the bottom showing when and where it was printed. Jake's uncle's shop. The timestamp matched exactly when I was supposedly at yearbook. They called me to the office before lunch. Principal Morrison sat there surrounded by his photos, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. But instead of yelling, he asked me one question. Why? I told him the truth. 3 years of being invisible. 3 years of everyone treating me like furniture. I wanted one day where people knew I existed. He leaned back and stared at me for the longest time. Then he did something I'll never forget. He laughed. Not angry laughing, real laughing. He said in 30 years, nobody had ever put that much effort into embarrassing him. He was almost impressed. I got suspended for the last week of school. Missed graduation ceremony. But it didn't matter because overnight I became a legend. Kids I'd never talked to added me on Instagram. Someone made a TikTok that got 2 million views. Even teachers nodded at me with this weird respect. Jake never snitched about helping. Emma kept quiet about the keys. Mr. Lopez changed his password to football 2023. My mom had to pick up my diploma from the office. When she handed it to me, she shook her head but smiled. She said at least now when people talk about the class of 2023, they'll remember someone was there. The principal retired that summer. At his farewell speech, he thanked everyone except, and I quote, the unnamed student who reminded me why I originally became a teacher, to deal with creative troublemakers who refused to be ordinary. I started college with a reputation before I even arrived. Someone's older brother recognized my name during orientation. He bought me lunch just to hear the whole story. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I was the kid who broke the principal.